familiar with setting up a rental? Been doing them all, that's what I thought. So, what do you do?
So if I need to enter in a new rental, I'm going to go to rental info, enter a new rental. I'm then going to pick either the parent company and then possibly the job site.
Do you have to pick the parent, or can you just pick the job site and the parent will populate itself?
You can just pick the job site. If we just pick the job site and the customer, it wouldn't be listed as far as on some of the different screens where you could filter by the parent, but as far as billing's concerned, when it goes into QuickBooks, it'll always pick up the parent company. So it's not a have to, but for some of the screens, it's nice to have that parent selected so you could filter by it to see everything rented out by that company.
Yeah. Are we doing that?
Yeah, we're taking it.
So we are doing that. Good.
Okay. So once we've selected the company, all our customer information is preloaded.
That all should populate itself there, right?
Correct.
Everything I see there would have, the magic of your program, put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and Michael,
Yes.
say it's a new location, all we have to do is select the parent and we can start typing in the new location and all the info, right?
I believe we have added that feature finally, and I think it is working great. Let me I think we actually have to do it with QuickBooks, but then it does allow me.
You have to do it with QuickBooks.
Correct. The only way we can add a parent company or add a sublocation to a parent is by doing it through QuickBooks.
Unless we do it the customer list way?
Unless you do it through the customer list, and you then can, which may be the best way to do it. And why don't we walk through that?
Yeah, but you would, so if it's not already a customer, you have to go to customer list, create the customer first. It already happened.
Let's say our parent company is AR Choice here, and we've only got one job site.
Yeah,
I
we
need
want to
to
create
add-
another job.
Perfect. If I would first select the parent, that way it quickly just gives me a new line, so I don't have to go to the bottom of the page. And then I could type in the new job site.
Oh, and it'll grab it. Oh, okay. Click out and then go back in.
And then I'll click the line below it, and then I can double-click the customer and select the parent.
And then you can go into the rental
Okay.
transaction and pick it.
Yeah.
So now when I click close here, it has added a second job site for me. It has turned that into the job site of the parent. If I hit reset and go look at just the parent, I then have both job sites available.
And then you could go into rental transaction and it would be there.
I can go into
Select.
enter new rental, select my parent, select my job site.
Hey, Daphne had a question on that populates itself. What the dates there? Is that what you're talking about? Like the April 30th, 2013. Does that come up automatically as just today's date?
Correct. So if this is a new rental transaction, the date here lets us know this is the date the transaction was created. If the rental isn't starting till tomorrow, we could put in 5/1 in the rental start date.
So that rental start date always has to be in there?
You don't have to put in the rental start date. You can control the deliveries and pickups and for the line items individually, but it's nice to have a overall kind of date to go by.
If we go over to the put on routes, can I do what is that, the routes?
Yeah, we'll get there. Now, one feature we did add, if you notice, if you add the job site that way and you go and select it, it has a red exclamation mark, letting me know that this is not a QuickBooks customer at this point. I can click that at any time and quickly add that to QuickBooks from here.
What's the benefit of doing that?
Well, one person could open up this rental transaction that has QuickBooks and the service program, and then they just click that little button and it creates that job site in QuickBooks.
So if you're away.
It's the same thing of hitting that Update QuickBooks and then that red button that pops up. This is just right here on the rental transaction. Just lets you know, little visual indicator that, hey, this is not a QuickBooks customer. Do you want to create it?
Okay.
The next thing I'm going to do is select the item I'm renting. So I'm going to select my item that I've created for portable toilet rental. The location here can be the location notated for the driver of where the units need to be placed, in the parking lot, next to the curb, next to the trailer, so on and so forth. Quick little note there.
Where will that show up?
It'll show up on delivery tickets. It'll show up even on the invoice if we tell it to.
Okay.
Not required.
No, it's a good thing. I just wanted to know who would see it. Okay.
If you're tracking serial numbers, we can select the serial number, or if you maybe are going to be putting in the serial number after the guy turns in his paperwork and lets you know what he brought, we could select it then. If you're not doing the serial number, we can always just put in a price here. I'm going to tell it to prorate.
Hey, Michael,
Yes.
that price, will that populate from QuickBooks?
If I had a price set on this item, yes. Mine's $0.
Okay. All right. I thought that's right.
It's
So
already-
if it's
already
one with a
populated.
regular cost,
Right.
I wouldn't have to worry about entering, but if it was a special customer with
Go
a
in there
special
and
price,
the cost.
I would have to enter their actual cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it'll populate from QuickBooks. Like say that populates at 115. If their rental's only 110, you just
Then I
highlight
have to
that
enter
cost.
the
Highlight it,
cost.
delete it out, put 110.
My QuickBooks sales price on this item is $0. If this had been $115 in QuickBooks, it automatically pre-fills that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you can adjust it on the fly based on the customer.
Hey, that prorate button, I know, did you click that or was that automatically clicked?
I click this.
Okay.
So this, we want to, I believe, from what I remember, we want to prorate the rentals.
Yeah.
The date run is left blank for anything marked prorate. We only use that date run for items that we mark run once. And that'll be like your delivery charge, pickup charge,
Yeah, delivery and pickup charge.
one-time service charges for hand sanitizer, anything like that. I then can set the delivery date. Now on a new transaction, for basically this is not an existing rental, we're not entering something that we've already had rented out. This is, we're going to deliver this. The build through date should always default in most cases to the delivery date. That's basically the starting date that's going to control the billing.
It should default to the rental start date, did you say?
It defaults to the delivery date.
Okay.
So when I set the delivery date as 5/1, it automatically puts the build through date at 5/1. We only change this when you were setting up your existing rentals, you should have adjusted that date to reflect what they're currently paid through.
Yep.
Or in a special circumstance where maybe this is a customer that's prepaying for a month up front, you could then adjust that date, to 5/28 to tell our system that we should not generate a bill until after that date.
So, Michael, like when we've been setting up, our next end bill date is May 10th. So we've been putting May 10th in there. Is that correct then?
Yep. If they're existing rentals, yes.
Okay.
So the last day they're billed to is May 10th. That's billed through May 10th. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then it'll automatically just pick it up and start it all over for the next, right?
Correct. So your next billing cycle is going to start May 10th, and then you'll run your first billing in our software 28 days later, and everything will be billed from that billed through date to the cutoff date of your billing cycle.
Okay, so our billing ends on May 10th. The new billing period starts on May 11th. So what date should we be putting in there? The end date or the new start date?
This right here, billed through the 10th, means that it'll pick up the billing from the 11th going forward.
Yeah.
Putting in there. Yeah.
So you've got it set up perfectly.
We have the 28 days built into there.
We've set up the monthly increment at 28 days.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So if this is a monthly, and monthly can mean a couple different things, it is a setting in the software that you can make a default. Monthly is either your calendar month, 30 or 31 days, or monthly is a 28-day cycle.
One other thing while I'm thinking about this, Michael, the weekend rentals where we deliver them on Friday and pick up on a Monday, and it's a one-time fixed cost, like let's say it's $100, just to pick an easy number, about a per both delivery, pickup, and rental. Would we use this particular screen for that, you think?
Yeah, you would still set them up as a rental, but we would probably want to set them up as a flat rate, so then no proration would happen. It would then, I would either use flat rate or manual, depending on how you're going to bill. If you're going to bill them the time, basically at the time of the rental.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, then you would use manual, which means it would not be included in any batched billing. So if we're setting this up for this weekend, as soon as I set up the rental, I'm going to hit post to QuickBooks, so it sends a $100 invoice right to QuickBooks that I could print out, give to the driver so he could bring back payment, or you could email it to him right away.
Okay.
We do have billing groups. Billing groups, you can select it in the header to control everything on this rental transaction, or you could do it per line. The grouping allows us to, if we have some customers that we have to bill in a calendar month format, or we have some that prepay, you basically allow to bill them separately. The word of caution, if you create a billing group, everything has to be in a group for the most part. So if we have a billing group called calendar month, we're going to want to make sure we have a billing group also called 28 days. So your regular rentals would go into that 28-day group, and your others would go into that calendar month. Because if we leave a billing group blank when running a batched billing, it bills for everything regardless of group.
Okay, so if we don't set up a billing group, it's going to bill all the potties together
Correct. Every month.
every 28 days.
Yep, every time you run your billing, correct.
Okay, so we need to set up a billing group.
So the billing group is the only way to separate out the rentals that you don't want to be billed every month for whatever the reason. And maybe they're billed in advance in the rear. I mean, we have one large rental company that has, I think, 4. They have a calendar month advance, calendar month rear. They have a regular advanced, regular in the rear, and they bill those 4 groups accordingly.
Okay, so to set up the billing group, again, do we just double-click in there?
Correct. Yep, just double-click. The only thing we're worried about is just putting in a label in the billing group.
So how does it know, like, how often do we bill CSC? So month end we bill CSB. So could we just put the billing group as CSB? How does it know what increment?
That is all controlled when you go in and run a rental billing. When I select the end date of this month,
So you have to select the billing group.
I'm going to select that one billing group I'm going to run. And then if it's a calendar month type group, I'm going to put in 30 days we're in this month. So it does not calculate the increments for you. We control the billing increment by the ending date,
Or other rentals.
the billing group, and the days in the billing cycle.
Michael, if we have the billing group, do we have to put it in the billing group only for the two that are different, or do we have to put it in every transaction?
What will happen if you have two that are different and you leave that billing group blank, it is going to pick up every rental, even the two that you don't want. But you can, on that batch, you'll be able to filter by that billing group and delete those two off that batch before you post it to QuickBooks if it's only two. It's real easy. And then you can then, if you just run the billing for the specific billing group, you're only going to pick up those two rentals.
But we could call the rest of the customers like regular portable toilet billing group, right?
Yeah, well. but if
You
don't-
can, but I see what Charlotte's trying to say. Of it's one more step, almost, of having to make sure you put them in a regular billing group. And if it's only going to be a special case where you have 2 or 3 customers that need to be separated, you can easily just delete them off your regular billing batch when you run it. And it doesn't affect anything else in the system. So these rental transactions, I almost like to think of as, and I've said this before, as an account. So anything we want to bill along with this rental, we would put on here. Delivery charge, pickup charge, service charge. So I have my delivery fee of $15, and we're going to run that once. Again, my delivery date, 5/1. And my billing increment, flat rate.
What's the difference? Flat rate and manual.
Flat rate, it gets picked up as a flat $15 in the billing increment.
Yep.
Manual does not get picked up in a batch billing. Manual means to bill them, we have to post to QuickBooks. So your weekend rentals will be manual. That way when you run a batch billing, they don't get picked up. You're invoicing those by hitting the Post to QuickBooks button. Make sense?
Yeah.
So at this time, we don't have to put in the pickup charge yet. Until maybe when they call and actually want it picked up, we could put the pickup in for their last billing. We could put it in ahead of time. I don't know if I have a pickup. Let's see. I'll just use service. And I could just leave this at 0 and manual until they're ready to be picked up, for instance.
You leave the date blank or what?
No, manual, like I said, would not be included in the batch billing. So it just would sit here until you flipped it to monthly to run their last bill.
So, Michael, what we've been doing as we started setting up was we've just been leaving the quantity at 0.
That would work too. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I could set this at flat rate.
Yeah.
I could do quantity 0 at my pickup's 15.
Yeah.
And I would want that to run once.
Now, what about I know we go in and add this later if we get a scheduled extra service. So if we serviced it on their route again, that would be a run once?
Yep,
So it only
that way
shows up on one invoice?
correct. If it's a one-time extra service for that billing period, then it would show up on their next invoice, and that's it. It would not, anything run once always appears on the next time you do your batch billing on their invoice, and that's it. It doesn't get picked up again.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Michael, one thing I'm thinking about on that, so we do the extra service, we put run once, and then we do the batch billing, shows up on their invoice, just tickety-boo like it's supposed to. The next month, what happens to it in the screen we see here? Is the run once automatically taken off, or how does that work?
No, it's still on here. What happens when the item actually gets included in the billing, it fills in the date that it was billed for. It's still on here, but it will not show up on any future invoice.
So to make it show up there, you got to put the date we did it, right?
No. I would, if an item is marked run once, the next time you run a batched billing, it's on the invoice. When that happens, it automatically puts in the date of that billing that the item was included on.
Okay, so then the next month, we would just have to go and put it in. If we do another extra service.
Yeah,
right?
well, I guess...
If there's another extra service, you add another extra service line item and tell it to run once.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So we would have to, every time we did an extra service, would have to run it once, or have to put a new line?
If they're calling in and say, if they sign up for a weekly service and then they call you, in the middle of the month and say, hey, I need an extra one this month, you tack it on as a item that you run once. If at the time of rental they say, hey, I need it twice a week, well, we could just set that as an item to be included in every billing batch. We would put the billing increment at monthly, tell it not to prorate, and just be a flat rate extra $15 every invoice that it would show up.
Yeah, no, that I get, but if it's a call in here or there, they have a busy week on the site, where they needed a week here, a week there type of thing over the 6-month rental, you would have to continually add a new line item to make it run once on a particular billing, correct?
Correct, and that's going to give you some great tracking, because when you do that batch billing, it'll date the item that the extra service was on. So it'll you'll have maybe 5 or 6 of these on here, but they'll all be dated for the right billing period that they were included in. So let's say we had a weekly service of a portable toilet. If I want this weekly service charge, maybe it's $20 a week for service, and I want that on every, or if I want this on the batch billing, I could do quantity 4. Now that's $80 for the month. I could tell that to be monthly. That way, if they return it early, it could be prorated for the lesser amount based on how long it was out. So if they return this, 3 weeks in, it's going to prorate this $80 accordingly, and only charge them for 3.
Michael, something else just came to light here as we're talking about that you call the weekly service a portable toilet. We call it scheduled extra service, where they have 2 services a week, let's say. So here you have the 4 times 20. How do the dates come out there? Like, because a lot of times our customers want to see what dates we were there for that extra service. Would we have to put an individual line on that to show the date of each individual service? Or if we put it on the route schedule, is that a better bet?
When you're doing the batched rental billing, this would come across as weekly service for the billing date 5/1, for instance, 5/1 to 5/28. and the quantity 4 lets them know they're being billed for 4 weeks. And that's the easiest way to do it. There is no way to get the individual service dates onto that invoice.
Unless we did it weekly service affordable toilet as 4 different line items, right, and put the date.
And then every month you'd have to go in and change the dates.
Yeah.
For the dates that you were serviced for. You could do it right here on one line item.
What if we put that on the route schedule, though? Would that show up on the billing or no?
No, because the billing, you're not billing from the route schedule, you're billing from the rental.
Put it on the route for that.
Yeah.
With all of it.
I have,
If you want to bill your weekly service separately as a separate invoice, I could get the dates on there.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that, though. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
You then have to be running a monthly billing based on the route schedule, and then in QuickBooks you print a statement. If you know the service dates, if they're weekly on Wednesday, let's say, for this month, or weekly on Tuesday, I could just do, parentheses and then put in the dates. When I'm
Okay,
running.
we have another question for you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
This rental transaction, so say they get serviced twice a week, so they get serviced every Monday and every Thursday. So what we've been doing for this rental, let's say these guys, we select route truck number 24 weekly on a Monday. And then we go to the route schedule and put it on again for, let's say, 24 Thursday. So every week it picks it up on the route schedule for Monday and Thursday. How is it going to differentiate from when it needs to charge the scheduled extra service charge? Is it by the date there in the rental?
Nothing is done automatic when it comes to the service charges for the routes. You have to put in the line item extra service when you need that extra service.
Think of
So
this
when we
more
update
billing,
it.
routing,
Oh,
and
okay.
service, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like really, the routing has nothing to do with the billing.
The routing is just sheerly your schedule.
Like, is that correct in that statement? Did you hear that, Michael?
Yep, and I was just agreeing with you completely. When you're
Okay.
dealing with
I think
rental,
that's what the gist of what I've got out of this is. Really, you have to think of them quite separately, even though they're connected, but not from a billing perspective.
now the only way we could connect the two, and you could calculate the number of services, is by using a memorized transaction list in our software that looks at the route schedule to calculate, based on route tickets, the number of services per billing cycle, and you would invoice your batch rentals for the rental charges, and then you would invoice off the memorized transaction list for service. You'd have 2 invoices for every customer for the month, one for service, one for the rental. You then could print a statement for that one customer instead of an invoice that would have the itemized 2 invoices for that billing period.
I think our customers have blown their mind on that one.
It can be done, and it's the only way you could do something like that.
Okay. Well, it sounds too complicated, and customers would hate getting. They'd hate getting 2 invoices for the same toilet. They wouldn't understand it. They'd complain. But
I would say most of our customers do it this way, where they have like a weekly service, quantity 4, and then the per service amount.
yeah,
The other way I've seen it is just quantity 1, do it 80, and this is not weekly service. This is, this is a monthly service charge. Monthly service. And you could put in that this is serviced,
I would do it.
serviced weekly, and then have it prorate. So if you basically only have this rental out for 2 weeks, it'll get half of that. Now they'll still have the dates that get tacked on for the month, and that may be a better way to manage it.
Okay, so what's the next step once we got all our charges in there?
Once all our charges in, we would then put it on the route for a service. So maybe the first service date's going to be, Friday, put on the route. So now I've got...
Oh, sorry. The delivery's not on the route. That delivery's a delivery ticket, right?
Correct, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. Once I've put it on the route for service, I've got all my charges in there, I'm going to create a delivery task.
Okay. Now, you said you put it on the route, but we never even went to a routing screen. Like I saw you select it there. So where is it on that route?
It put it on to Route 1 for a weekly service with the scheduled date of 5/3. So it's going to be weekly every Friday. It's on the route schedule. It automatically puts it on there.
So it'll be in there, and then you can just move it around on the route schedule.
I shouldn't have to move it around. When I pick the service date, if I'm picking weekly and then I say the first service date is the 3rd, it's going to be weekly every Friday on the schedule.
Okay.
If this is a bi-weekly service of every Monday, Friday, I just can change the service date, hit put on the route again. Now it's on the schedule twice, one for Monday, one for Friday, reoccurring every week for our...
That is going in the route schedule. Once he posted it to route the first time, he had it on Friday, let's say. Right. Then he posted it to route schedule. Now if you want it on Monday, all he did was change the service date to Monday, post it on the route, and now it's on Monday and it's on Friday. It's on twice.
So that would be our schedule.
Yeah.
Is that correct what they said, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that?
Yep, if you look right here, I've got that test road here is now set up for this coming Friday and this coming Monday. Each of those stops reoccurring every Monday, every Friday. That button on the rental transaction is for you to quickly add it to your route schedule on the date that's in there. So you could add it 4 or 5 times, just change your service date.
Yeah. So route, yeah.
Where I have R1, you would have your truck number.
More in a road optimization, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, once we get it on here, we could optimize this route, see if it fits with that truck. If not, we can then move it, but it's the hard part's done. While you're looking at one screen now, we can control everything, and then you can go in and optimize later.
I got you. Okay. And can you switch days easy enough? Like, what if you wanted on a Tuesday, Thursday instead of the Tuesday, Friday?
Just change it right here on the route schedule. Because they're separate, all you're doing is controlling the scheduling here. So now I've just switched it for Tuesday, Thursday. Done.
Okay. That's just too easy. Okay. And it won't, until you suspend it, it won't leave the route, right?
Correct. So let's say, just assuming that we're done with this week. So at the end of this week, I'm going to post my route at the bottom, and by posting the route, all we're doing is taking everything that's in this date range. So we're taking the 4:30s all the way to 5/3. So all of this is now going to be rotated or advanced to next week for me.
And you do that on a weekly basis or a daily basis?
That's your call. At the end of today, I could just post the route for Tuesday. That way it sets up next Tuesday's deliveries or pickups or, services.
Yeah, see, Michael, I'm getting Corey to post it for the day at the end of the day because, like Norcraft, we go there daily. So in order for it to bounce it and other ones to bounce, we're going to do it daily.
Correct. You could post your route. Well, is it when you say daily for septic, is that 7 days a week?
5.
Do you have the schedule set up so that it's on there once, reoccurring every 1 day?
I don't know. I'd have to double check that.
If you had that, if I had to make it easy, if I had a customer that was an everyday service, I would put them on weekly for Monday, weekly for Tuesday, weekly for every day of the week that they need service. That way I could just post my route once at the end of the week.
Okay, yeah, that's what Daphne did.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we could just do it just like this, post route. And then everything is now into next week. So my next week's services are set up.
What happens if you don't post route?
Your schedule stays in last week, and your guys are going to really not like you.
All right, that's why I asked the question.
But technically, if you do forget, unless you've added stops into next week, if you were to print the schedules or they're using the mobile devices, you know, they're weekly on Monday. Last Monday it's the same as this Monday, which is the same as next Monday. But, you know, barring any new customers that were added. So it just becomes an every, you know, end of Friday process. It takes 2 seconds. But back to what we were looking at, I did the delivery task, create task, and that takes me right here to task detail. It automatically puts in that this is a rental delivery. And then if they have multiple rentals, I can go to the rentals tab, get rentals, and now I only want to select, you know, the portable toilet that we're delivering, because you will get the extra service charges on here. Or if they already had maybe 2 or 3 rentals, we hit get rentals, we only want to select the new one.
What? I'm sorry, I lost. What we got there? That's for the delivery?
This is doing a delivery task.
And you have to do that to the rentals every time?
For every time you want a delivery, if your guys want to track the delivery on their smartphone, they can track it as a task. That way you know if it's been delivered or if it's been picked up.
Yeah.
So when I hit create a delivery task, it's creating a task for anything on this transaction. And I just go to rentals and pick now which one I want to deliver by hitting get rentals and then selecting the item. You'll know it because it'll be the delivery date will be the one, you know, 5/1 for instance. If the other stuff is earlier this year, obviously you're not delivering those units.
Do you have against the portable rental to start? Start the billing date as of, or it'll start as of the delivery date?
Starts as a delivery date, right, Michael?
The date defaults, the due date we can use as the delivery date. That would be, you know, if we're delivering this 5/1, this separate task allows me to control the delivery date. That does not affect the billing. So, you know, if the rental's starting 5/1, if something happens and this doesn't get done, we can always reopen this task and adjust the due date to let the guy see it on, you know, Thursday, for instance, for delivery.
And this would show up on our master task thing in the yellow, red, and green, right?
Yep.
And you close it out just like a task, like you know, toilet delivered, boom, and then it's the rental transaction we've set up, right?
Correct. Yep. And then it's, you know, when it's done, your guys, if they're using the mobile devices, can put in the resolution, check it completed, sync and save, and then at the end of the day, you'll just hit one button marking everything complete and getting it off the task list that your guys have done. If you're not using mobiles, then you would just, you know, when they turn in their paperwork, for instance, they then can, you just go into these, put in your resolution, post to notes. No invoice needed.
And this delivery will be picked up on the invoice.
Right now, we haven't set a pickup date.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, it'll, on the first rental billing, it'll pick up that delivery charge, right?
Correct. So I could filter everything on my task list to rental deliveries, and I could see I've got 3 one tomorrow, one on the 3rd, one on the 7th.
Okay, so now it's the next day. It's the 8th. We've delivered that. How do we get it off here to say that it's complete?
So if it's done, I can just, in the resolution,
Yeah.
delivery complete. I could, if I am doing, I'm setting the date on the 2nd now, or, you know, if we actually do this on the 1st, it'll pre-fill that for you, but today's the 30th, so it'll put the date complete as the 30th in here. But you can change this if you want. If you leave it blank when completing it, it'll use today's date. I then can hit just post to notes. I could email notify the customer that this was complete. Now it's off my...
If you said yes to that, where to pick up your email from?
It picks up the email from the customer.
And it'll just grab it and say toilet's been delivered?
Correct. It'll email them a task summary that that task was complete, that it was a rental delivery. It'll list the items, the address, it'll have the task description, the service address, the customer information. If you have Outlook on your computer for email, it'll fire it out in Outlook, so you'll get to see the message before it sends it and add any other notes you need.
And you preset that beforehand?
By default, our software knows that Outlook, if Outlook's installed, it uses that. Otherwise, it'll there are settings in here we can set to use your own email server.
Okay. No, we use Outlook, so that's fine.
Perfect. So now if we happen to have that customer call in and say, hey, nothing was ever delivered, well, I'm going to go to this customer, and I could say, yep, it was completed. Here's my task history. It was completed by whoever the driver was. Any of the other notes, I could see it was completed on 5/1. So we have a running record of all these pickups, deliveries, septic service calls. Everything is kind of handled just like this.
Okay.
So if I go back to items rented, we'll see that here's our one we just created earlier. I can double click the invoice number to open it up. And let's say it's time to do a batch billing. So when I go in to run my monthly billing, I go into rental info, billing, run billing.
That's just for rental billing.
Yep.
Okay.
The end date is the cutoff date of my billing cycle. So we can, basically you could run your billing ahead of time and just advance this date to when your billing cycle is actually ending. Or if you miss it by a day or two, you can always adjust this date to reflect your actual billing cycle. So it's a flexible system. We don't have to worry every 28 days remembering to go and do this.
So if the cutoff date was April 30th, but you weren't actually doing the billing until the 2nd of May, you would use April 30th as your date, though, right?
Well, I'm going to kind of, everything I have in here I think I set as the last billing of, let me check. Everything in here has a last bill date of, for the most part, 3/1 or 3/31. So I have to run my billing. Let's just say I'm going to go a couple days into May just so we can pick up that first unit that we just created. That has a, billing, the delivery date of 5/1. If I set the date, maybe if my 28 days was 5/3 and that unit was rented out 5/1, their first bill is going to be prorated to a smaller amount.
Yeah.
28 days, Do I want the location or serial number in the item description? I'm setting those to no. Combining customer invoices, yes. And then generate a pre-billing. Once my pre-billing is created, I can go to View Pre-Billing.
Oh, I see some fuel surcharge stuff there that, how does that work?
Correct. If we had a line item on the rental transaction called fuel surcharge, we could have it simply be a service item, set it to $0 in QuickBooks. That way when you add it onto the transaction fuel surcharge, we then can update all the fuel surcharge line items. You pick the line item you used from QuickBooks. We could have it update to a % and then 10%, so it'll recalculate that fuel surcharge to 10% of the transaction, for instance.
So we only have it on the septic side of our business right now, not on the toilet. So it would be on the cost of the tank. Like can you do multiple things?
As of right now, the fuel surcharge is only calculating one item called, for instance, fuel surcharge in QuickBooks, and it won't calculate it based on, if you had 6 items on that rental transaction, you can't just pick, I want to calculate the % off 2 of the 6 items. It does them all.
Ask that question. I don't know the answer.
Michael?
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing batch billing, I can choose bodies separate from septic, right?
You could do that with the billing group, correct.
Okay.
Like this is only for rentals here, so it'll pick up all the rental items.
Oh, yeah, your septic side, if you're doing it through tasks, would be on your open invoices. Those are billed separately. There's no fuel surcharge calculation with tasks.
Okay, but the regular septic, and I'm getting off topic a little bit, the regular septic ones that are on the route, are they still tasks? I can't remember.
If they're routed for septic service, you're billing them through the route schedule, which would be done through the route tickets and memorized transactions, depending on how you do it. Here I can recalculate an item and do a fuel surcharge for route-based service. And we can get into this, our next training together. I think if you're signed up for any more this week, if whatever class it happens to be, if we're the only ones, this will be what we'll go over next, is how to bill for the reoccurring stuff.
Dolores needs to go over that absolutely, but let's not look at that now. Let's keep going on the rental side. So.
It's completely separate.
Yeah.
So I've generated my pre-billing, and I click View Pre-Billing. So here it has billed everything that I have currently rented out. And it has billed it from its last bill date or prior billing date to the cutoff date I chose, 5/3. So my regular $84 rate, since these were last billed, through 3/31, it's picking up the rental from 4/1 to 5/3. It's a little over 28 days, so it prorates it accordingly. Our one we set up for 115, well, it's only been out, from the 1st to the 3rd, so it prorates it. Their first bill date, $8.21. Now they're on the same billing cycle as all my customers. Going forward, they'll be their full month to month, until they return it. My monthly service charge, since this was serviced, based on, we had $80 for the month, it has prorated their service charge for this month, for this billing. We did get our delivery fee that was included, and if you notice, our pickup charge is 0. So in this case, what we would do for anything with a pickup charge, when you run a batched billing is I would just right-click on this $0, filter by selection. I would see any $0 charges, and I would just highlight the row and just delete them off the batch, and then hit reset. That way it doesn't show up as a $0 on the invoice. I could, if I had an item called pickup, I could also right-click and filter on that to see all my pickups, and then any of the $0 I could filter on those and just delete the $0 pickups, because you will have some pickups in there that probably have a dollar amount from month to month. This make sense?
I think so. So now what do you do from here?
I would select the date I want to appear on my QuickBooks invoice, and then hit Post to QuickBooks. And I'll opening up QuickBooks.
What if you find a mistake in this? Like you're looking through it and you find a mistake.
Real simple. I have a rental ID on the far right, so if I see a mistake, I can double-click, make a change, close it, and then I would just want to close my batch, delete my last billing run, and then rerun it.
Once you've sent it to QuickBooks, it's done, right?
Once you've sent it to QuickBooks, if there's a mistake, you either just for that one time, if it's a couple invoices, just make the change in QuickBooks and then reflect that change in the rental transaction for your next billing.
Okay.
I recommend your first couple billing batches that you run out of our software, you may not know exactly what you're doing or what to look for yet. Either Bill or I can walk you through it, but make a backup of your QuickBooks first. Then send the batch over. If there's anything wrong, you can restore your QuickBooks, just back it up one step, and then do the same in the service program, fix it, and then send that batch over again.
Okay.
So now how do we pick up? If someone calls in, we need to pick up the rental transaction.
One second. Let me see if I can. I may get an error message. I don't know if this QuickBooks company file that I'm in lines up perfectly with what I'm using, but let's see here. Okay, that is not a QuickBooks customer, so that makes sense. So it sent over every invoice but left me with the one that's not a QuickBooks customer. So what I could do is just quickly go to this rental transaction, click the little exclamation mark,
We get that error sometimes. I've seen that.
Yeah, my QODBC driver is in the 2013 version because I've updated it to work with other QuickBooks, but I'm in the 2012 right now, and the customer tables are different. But if we look at one of the ones that did get invoiced, next week, or is it this week? Here we go. Here's one. So everything here on 5.3 is what we just invoiced over. So if a customer calls in for a pickup, I would go to items rented, find the customer. I could either use the drop down to find the customer when they called, double click on the invoice ID. I then want to create a pickup task. We'll go and pick that up maybe on Friday. And we're going to go to rentals, get rentals. We're picking up everything they have, for instance, or just picking up whatever they call for. Go ahead and assign it to my driver or my truck, and close. Now my task is created. I'm back to my rental transaction. I can go ahead and put in my return date today, or if I'm picking them up on Friday and that's when they want their billing to end, I can put in Friday's date, return all. Do I want to invoice these items? Very important to hit yes when you are returning an item. What this has done now, when I hit close on my transaction, I'm going to refresh this page, but these are going to disappear. They are not on the items rented list because they've been marked as returned. Since the software asked me, would you like to invoice this now when you marked it as returned, what that does is if you go to billing and view pending, and forget these other three that should have gone, but this is what you will see. Before you run a monthly billing batch, if you go to this screen, you will see anything that has been returned in that billing cycle that's waiting to be billed.
What if you don't hit the post the billing?
It assumes that you're going to invoice them manually out of QuickBooks. If you hit invoice, would you like to invoice this now, and hit no, then nothing is sent to this batch screen. You would have to hit the Post to QuickBooks button at the top of the rental transaction to get an invoice over there.
Okay.
But I could, as I'm using the program, anything that's returned, you hit yes, and at the end of every day, you'll have stuff in here that's been returned that day. You could then post this to QuickBooks without running a billing batch, just to invoice, whatever's been returned as it's being returned. That way you still get the residual income throughout the month and between your billings.
Yeah. One other thing that I never really touched on, but it may complicate this whole process. Customer has multiple toilets on one site. We put them all on one bill. One gets returned, but the other ones are staying. What happens?
The other ones stay open. Watch. Let's see. I've got, let's use this one. They've got 4 toilets. One of them is already returned. Now I need to return another one. I use the individual return dates.
Okay.
Want to invoice this? Yes.
Okay. Would it go on a separate invoice though?
It allows you to, it does not go on a separate invoice. It's sitting on the batch screen here. So if you waited till the end of the month to run this batch every time, this would be their other rentals would then be put onto this.
Okay. Cool.
It has just put that one on there with that one serial number. If we go back to items rented, they only have 2 out of the 4 because the other 2 were marked as returned. So it keeps perfect track. Everything that's returned, if you want to go in and find it, let's say we accidentally hit the no button for the invoice. Now we can't find it on this list. Rental info, rental inventory transactions. I can double click the customer name and it'll pull up that same transaction. Here are the 2 items returned. I can make an adjustment. let's say now I hit no on accident, I could reselect the date returned and hit yes to correct the mistake. And that about does it for the rental class. Is that any other quick questions?
Okay, I'm not quite following. In the rental info, when I'm setting up my rental costs, like to enter a new rental, okay, so I'm down in my, if you want to open one that has the stuff, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So I'm not quite, why can we not, could we not have your delivery and pickup, say, in your quantity? If you put your pickup charge quantity as 0, but have the cost there, and just then have it as a flat rate, but nothing, and just the billing date, like the closing, and it's, until you update it, it won't show any charges or anything?
That's exactly what we did on this one here. We had the pickup charge quantity of 0 for $15. We ran a monthly billing, and it was not included on the invoice.
We don't then, if I have 0 quantity, 0 cost.
If you want to make it easier for yourself, Daphne, just leave the pickups until we pick it up. Don't even put a pickup charge in.
It's
Because
just
we have to
quantity
go
of
put
0
that
for 15, but no charge. So when it's time to do the pickup for this one, I would then just put the quantity of 1, return all, today, return, yes, invoice, yes. Now they're going to be billed for all these units again, plus a pickup.
Well, you can. It's just easier if someone calls in for a rental. It's easier just to go put a 1 than have to put all the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right now, I've got the cost there, but I don't have a quantity.
Right, but it won't put the cost. Like if you, Michael, change that pickup charge quantity to a 0.
If I change this to a 0, 0 times 15 is a total of 0.
So it's not going to charge it, but when Dolores says it's going to show $0, so then she just has to go through and select all the $0 items, delete them so that the $0 doesn't show up. So now, right. So now when we go to pick it up, all we have to do is put a quantity of 1, and it'll put that cost back in there of $50.
Is that correct? The $0 item will show up? Where will it show up? On the preview billing?
It was on the view billing, and then he went and filtered by $0.
That, you do not post that if it's not so $0.
Well, yeah, Dolores would have to do that. All she has to do is filter by $0, hit delete, and it won't show.
But not each individual.
Well, it'll
be a master.
right now and rolled off.
Is that the same way, Michael, that on a batch billing like that, if there's a bunch of $0 lines, you can get those out of the batch billing without?
Yeah, I would right click, sort smallest to largest, and then I would get all of my zeros. I would just right click on one of the zeros, filter by selection. It's only going to show me $0 line items on here, and I just highlight all of the 0, press delete for instance, and then I hit reset, and it's going to then show me everything with the dollar amount. It's going to take off that filter and then just post to QuickBooks. I mean, if you want to invoice it with $0, go right ahead. I just think it's going to affect cost in QuickBooks. You don't really want to invoice anything at $0.
Look at everything like you just.
It's going to hurt your different service account, chart of accounts, if you're tracking that. If you're not worried about tracking that, then send it over at $0 and there's no harm.
That would be a flat rate and run 1 for a pickup or delivery?
Correct.
Okay.
It'll just take a couple times to get used to.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I think so.
So yeah.
But I do have a another appointment I have to jump to. If Charlotte, if you want to get with the group there, and a couple of the areas you're still shady on, send me a quick email, and I'll either reply back with some direct answers to that, or we'll start there the next time we get together one of these training classes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, Michael.
Guys.